All righty. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call the King George County Board of Supervisors for the April 16th, 2024 to 5:36. Spender.
I'd like to call to order the King George Service Authority Board of Directors.
Ready? Please stand for the invocation by Mr. Stroud.
Keep your hand on citizens, employees, the nation of Israel, keep it safe, help and prosper, in your will, peaceful, great.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Are there any amendments to the agenda? Seeing none, Ms. Spender.
Are there any amendments to the Board of Directors agenda? Seeing none, Mr. Collins?
Thank you. Public comment for the King George Board of Supervisors and the King George Service Authority. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes per person. In order to afford everyone an opportunity to speak, please provide your full name and district when submitting your public comment so they can be properly included in the public record. First, we have Reverend Davis.
My name is Sherman Davis in Dalkin District, and I can't have the Lutheran minister outdo me, so I got Jesus is my boss, okay? Is that good? And so I'm going to be reading to you tonight from the book of Isaiah. By the way, after a little over 3 months, I got this board, I think, kind of figured out. There's Mr. Sullins. Of course, he's the fellow who doesn't want to make anybody mad. He's easygoing, quiet. Then there's Mr. Collins. He don't care who he makes mad as long as he makes somebody mad, right? Amen. And then there is Mr. Stroud. He truly is the cowboy. There's no doubt about it. He's the straight shooter. And then there's Mr. Davis. His motto is, give me the truth, speak the truth, live the truth, love the truth, and he loves the truth. And then Mrs. Binder, which it's Bender. Okay, I just got that cleared up before we started. And she is the person who's the peacemaker of the crowd, and God knows what he's doing. And so it's good to have all this balance in this board, and we appreciate you. Thank you for what you're doing. The prophet Isaiah in chapter 40 and verse number 26 says, hast thou not known, hast thou not heard, that the everlasting God, the Lord, the creator of the ends of the earth, fainteth not, neither is weary. There is no searching of his understanding. He giveth power to the faint, and to them that have no might, and he increaseth strength. Even the youth shall faint and be weary, and the young men shall utterly fall. But they that wait upon the Lord, verse 31 says, shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings of eagles, or as eagles, and they shall run and not be weary, and they shall walk and not faint. That's a Old Testament, different dispensation verse of Scripture, but we claim it. It's really written to the nation of Israel, and we all know what the nation of Israel is under attack right now. They will not be destroyed. God promised Abraham, the racial seed, that those people would remain on the earth and they would inherit a land. He promised David, who is the royal seed, that there will be somebody set upon that throne, a king on the throne of David, and ruled over this entire earth one day. I'm excited about that. In fact, I think we're so close to the coming of the Lord that maybe the archangel Gabriel's up in heaven. The Bible says the trumpet will sound. And before anybody plays a trumpet, I don't know what you know now, but they moisten their lips. And so I think Gabriel might be doing this right now because it's fixing the sound. I'm looking forward to the coming of the Lord, but until then, I'm praying for you guys. I enjoy serving Jesus. I'm having the best time of my life. I used to be a drunkard, but I didn't have as much fun back then as I do now. But God is good. God's good all the time. God bless you. Thank you for your service.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. Ms. Level?
Hi, my name is Anne Maria Lobo. I live in Presidential Lakes. This is for the Service Authority. Tonight, I want to thank you for your service. I know this job is very hard. There has been so many that have tried to fix the problems with the Service Authority, and I don't understand why they haven't fixed it then. In July 2003, the supervisors and directors invested over $20 million into infrastructure improvements, so the water and wastewater systems throughout the county. And they still had to pay penalties. I don't understand why. I would also like to know if the taxes from the cigarettes is going to help pay the Service Authority. That is what they say before. I want to tell you tonight that the problems that King George County has are not any of your fault. These are problems that have been the county for a long time. When it's not your money, it's easy to spend the money. I would also like to remind you that the people of King George want to keep their taxes lower, but since 2009, our taxes have been very high, and at least you would like to keep them at the same level. That was one of the promises you make when you ran in the election. On October 17, 2003, I asked the supervisors to please wait a little longer for approval of the data center until we have better understanding of the problem. We are worried about the amount of water, the electric power that it will use. The people in Caroline County are worried about the water levels of the Rappahannock River. These data centers use millions of gallons of water to cool the servers. I want to thank Mrs. Kathy Bender for getting the supervisors to renegotiate for the data center. The last supervisor seemed to be signing everything good or bad. We had to think hard about this because Amazon like to put a small business out of business. Bezos is not for small towns. He wants to take advantage of them. We need water and electric power for the people of King George. Please be careful. Thank you for letting me talk.
Thank you, Mr. Level. Jonathan Franklin, Department of Social Services.
You're not going to adjust the mic for me? Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. I'm Jonathan Franklin. I don't come to you as a citizen. I come to you on behalf of the Department of Social Services this evening to bring awareness to a few recognition months and some upcoming events in our community. April is National Child Abuse Prevention Month, and May is both Adult Abuse Prevention Month and National Foster Care Month. In honor of these events, or in honor of these months, the Department of Social Services is hosting Family Day and a foster care event. I cordially invite each of you and the public to these events. The third annual Family Day and VFW Post 12202 birthday celebration is being held at the Sealston Sports Complex on May 4th, 2024, from 1 p.m. to 7 p.m. This is a collaborative effort of the Department of Social Services, Parks and Recreation, and VFW Post 12202. Leveraging the strengths of each organization, we recruit sponsors and vendors, provide volunteer opportunities for students, recognize community service through awards, promote awareness of the wide variety of nonprofits and businesses, and offer a spring event for the community full of food, music, fun, and activities for all ages. As a small community, we have so many services to offer and celebrate that are available to our residents. I encourage you to come, hear from the families and children served, learn of new opportunities, maybe even promote your own services, celebrate accomplishments, and recognize the village effort it takes to care for one another and build community. The Department of Social Services is also hosting a foster care event on May 28th, 2024, from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. at the Central Rappahannock Regional Library. Join us and our neighboring jurisdictions in celebrating Foster Care Month with a dynamic speaker, refreshments, and information sharing. Perhaps you are a veteran foster parent or interested in becoming a foster parent, or simply want to learn how you can support and advocate for children in foster care. Everyone is welcome. Thank the board for your time this evening, and in light of our theme for Family Day this year, may the 4th be with you.
Thank you, Mr. Franklin. Reverend Shaw.
James Shaw, James Madison District, represented by T.C. Collins and David Sollins. Also, unpaid volunteer columnist in the monthly Northern Neck Sentinel, filling in a gap which had been present where 5 local counties were covered, and I decided King George needs a voice too, and so I rose to the occasion. TC, you are known by the critics you attract. You have some rough and tumble ones on social media and the left-leaning press. Keep up the good work. Sully, keep listening and be that at-large voice for everyone, even those who hate you. Bill, on fire. Don't let heavy-handed criticism from the critics put that fire out. Ken, keep using your business smarts to get us good deals, such as cost-effective buildings that won't overburden or bankrupt our kids or grandkids. I see 0433 coming up later in the agenda. $88,072 delivered for a building. There's more to it than that. But for all those who made this quote possible, great job. Kathy, I know I dumped a bunch of ideas on you in a recent email. I hope that helped you in your work in the service authority role. And as a result, okay, folks, okay, I just mentioned in public an email. So that's low-hanging fruit now. It's bait for the critics to FOIA. And so to those critics, I say, go ahead, make my day and FOIA the email. And waste the time of Kathy and Jackie and all the other people who will make that possible. People who otherwise would be doing productive work for this county in the various buildings and those folks up here. No one is telling me to do this. I'm just a taxpayer. And our hat for tonight is fire starter. It's a way for me to give back. I step forward, like I did with the column in the Northern Neck Sentinel. These public servants up here now have more positive ideas to work from, and there's more coming because I'm not going to stop. Now take the good ones and throw away the bad ones. That's how that works. We're done.
Thank you, Reverend Shaw. Is there anyone else in the audience that'd like to have public comment? Please step forward. Give us your name and your district, please.
Deborah Coleman, Shiloh District. I just wanted to, I'm kind of new at this, so I appreciate the work that you try to do and that you're volunteering your services. I came to the April 10th meeting and you were talking about the budget, and I just want to say it out to you instead of talking about it behind your backs. But I was very dismayed at that meeting because I felt like you were not using knowledge and understanding to make your votes and make your decisions about the budget. The library came up, everybody says, why do they need more money? And then you vote against letting them have money without having anybody there to explain why they need the money. Board of Education, Mr. Bush came and was trying to explain his part, and he was told, well, we don't have time, we have to get this budget done. It just seemed like rather than learning about what was needed and why, you just wanted to slash budgets. And I was kind of discouraged by that. So I just wanted to make that one comment. Outside of that, I just have a great interest in keeping our fire and rescue EMS stable and able to serve the community. A lot of people have left the service recently, according to one of the meetings, and I think, people leave jobs for various reasons, but sometimes it's because the local counties that are near us have higher incomes and pay and benefits, and or maybe they've heard wind that budgets are going to be cut, so they'd rather go somewhere else. That we need to keep updated equipment and have all the possibilities possible for us to have the EMS squads save lives, and that we don't cut dollars just at the expense of saving life. So I appreciate the time to listen to me. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience? Please step forward, state your name and your district, please.
My name is Paul Stanton. I'm from Shiloh District, and I'm the chairman of the board of the Brisbane Center homeless shelter in Fredericksburg. And I just wanted to say that homelessness is getting worse. It's exploding in Richmond right now. We're getting a lot of people from Richmond trying to get into our shelter, which is not allowed, but it's a problem that's not going away. And we are very dependent upon God and King George County. You've been a great supporter of ours, and I'm just here to thank you for that. It's been really solid support, and you make a big difference because it's not a good year for fundraising, and things tight, money's tight, and we don't get any federal or state money. So we're dependent on you guys, and we really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else?
So I think Kathy Bender knows me, and I came talking here probably 10 years ago or something like that. And every time I talked, whatever I was talking about, I was voted against. And I got a lot of hatred from the board or snotty comments about, well, you didn't bring anybody else to, talk about that. I am very proud of this board. I never thought I'd live to see the day of this board. And I thank you for being here. It's the best board I've ever seen in 10 years. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Beverly?
Good evening, members of the Board of Supervisors. My name is Tristan Beverly. I'm the president of the King George County Professional Firefighters and Paramedics. I'm here tonight just to provide some information on unions, specifically the International Association of Firefighters, to hopefully give you guys a better understanding of what the IFF is, which Local 4438 is an affiliate of. A union is an organization formed by workers who join together to use their strength to have a voice in the workplace. It's not hired by the government or a company. It exists for the safety or well-being of the employees. When working people come together, they make things better for everyone. The millions of union members in America from all walks of life all want the same goal. For over a century, the IFF has been at the forefront of protecting and advocating for the brave men and women who serve as firefighters and emergency medical personnel around the world. Founded in 1918, so it's been around for over 100 years, the IFF has been a proud history of fighting for the rights and well-being of firefighters. From its humble beginnings with just 36 delegates representing 24 locals, the IFF has grown into a powerful organization with over 344,000 members and more than 3,500 affiliates across the United States and Canada. At the heart of the IFF's mission is the belief that every firefighter deserves fair wages, safe working conditions, and access to the resources they need to do their jobs effectively. Now, we recognize that we don't have a formal agreement with you guys and nothing in writing, but Local 4438 was established in May of 2005, so we're getting ready to celebrate another anniversary. The mission of IFF Local 4438 is to support our fire and emergency services personnel so they can provide the highest quality fire, rescue, and emergency medical service to the citizens and visitors of King George County. To accomplish our mission, we're committed to advocating for personnel, training, equipment, apparatus, infrastructure, and other resources necessary to enhance public safety, pursuing competitive wages, hours, and other conditions of work to recruit and retain talented and diverse workforce, protecting the welfare of firefighters and emergency services personnel through educational, charitable, political, legislative, social, and other community involvement, respecting the rights of our members, employer, and the public to promote harmony within the King George County Department of Fire Rescue and Emergency Services. I hope I provided you with a better explanation of King George County Professional Firefighters and Paramedics Local 4438, the IFF, and unions in general. And Supervisor Stroud, I want to thank you for going on these station tours. It's really helping to have our members knowing that you're going on these tours, trying to work with us, work with the fire department on getting the best station for the county and the fire department. But we thank you for your time and look forward to continuing to communicate with you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Mr. Dines, is anyone online?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Is there anything to be read into the record? Seeing none. Before we move on to the reports of the members of the board, Mr. Beal gave me some bad news earlier. The best VDOT superintendent for King George County is leaving us. So please recognize your superintendent, sir.
I was going to include that in my remarks. David Beal, VDOT, Northern Neck Res engineer. Dennis Maxey, he's done a great job. I can't thank him enough. When I came to the residency in 2000, he was a maintenance operations manager, and I was coming from land use, which is a different side of VDOT, not in the maintenance field. And he really taught me a lot about maintenance and budgeting. And he has an opportunity to go work at Dahlgren Naval Surface Warfare Center and work on budgets there. So his last day is Friday. We're going to find a great superintendent to replace him. We'll do the best we can. We won't be able to fill his shoes, but we'll find somebody to step in there and keep the things going that he started and done so well. But I appreciate everything he's done for us.
Thank you. We appreciate it too. You did a great job. Thank you. If you don't like Dahlgren, you can come back. So the next thing is Ms. Bender. Not the whole thing, just
I will make a motion to approve the new King George County Administrator Employment Agreement. Mr. Stewart, do I need to mention the name?
yes.
I think it's fine if you do.
I would like to, that's why.
And to authorize the contract that we have.
And I would like to introduce Mr. Matthew Smolnick and to authorize the execution of his employment contract. And we'll give a little introduction after we finish the motion.
All righty. There's a motion on the table. Is there any discussion?
Second.
Properly second. Is there any discussion? Thank you, Mr. Davis. Looks like you're going to be sitting here next year.
No.
All right. Any discussion? None. By roll call, Mr. Davis.
Aye.
Mr. Stroud.
Aye.
Sullins.
Aye.
Ms. Bender.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. It's unanimous. Mr. Smolnick, please come forward to the podium. Mr. Smolnick, this is the employment contract. I, as chairman, would like to sign it. And you're next. And county attorney, please. Sure. Give you a your copy. Please stay at the podium for a few minutes. Welcome, Mr. Smolnick. Mr. Smolnick is from New Kent County, a Virginia resident for many, many years. He was previously, his contract will start in June. He was the Assistant County Administrator for New Kent for 9 years. He has a proven track record of economic development. He was also in the planning and zoning. He has many certifications, and before that, he was at the Olive Wright. I'm not sure what you did there, but anyhow, you can give us if I missed anything, go ahead and give us a brief.
Thank you, Chairman, members of the board. King George County, Matt Smolnick, new county administrator for this wonderful community. I'll be starting June 1st. So my wife, 2 children will be moving here. 15-year-old and a 13-year-old, 16-year-old now, I'm sorry, he just turned 16. So looking to become part of the King George community. I'm an Eagle Scout, Boy Scout leader. My wife's a Girl Scout leader. We run a youth mission trip for our church, teach Sunday school. So really have a vested interest. And I just want to thank the board and the citizens for this opportunity. I'm so blessed to be here, to be standing at this podium, looking forward to it. And I came to the county a few weeks ago, maybe a month or so ago, just looking around, driving around, acting as a site selection consultant. And I went home, I said, I like what I saw. And it's heartwarming to see a community and just the reception that I've received thus far. It's phenomenal, and I look forward to working with the citizens, this board and staff members to keep King George moving forward. So looking forward to it, and again, looking forward to meeting everybody whenever I get here on June 1st.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Welcome aboard. Okay. Any media inquiries can go through Ms. Southall, and she will for any interviews for Mr. Smolnick. Next, reports to the member of the board. Can we, Ms. Bender, can we do Lee? Lee, can you do service authority report?
Sure. So to start, Pastor Davis, Pastor Shaw, thank you for your words. Appreciate you guys coming out and everything you guys do here. Ms. Lavelle, I will take some time later this evening if there's a break. I have a couple things I can talk to you about. I know you mentioned the service authority paying for some things with some of the cigarette taxes and things like that, and we can discuss some of that. I can fill you in on some of that information. Like other than that, that's all I have right now. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Davis?
Yes, sir. Thank you. But first, I'm going to say, Ms. Smolnick, thank you. I'm glad you're here. And if people are wondering about him, all I got to do is tell you that he brought up Buc-ee's to New Kent. Okay? So he knows what he's doing. That they have a, not only that, but one of my hearts that I want to do, which I know the fire department would love this, is I want to bring, and I'm not promising, but the man brought an emergency room to New Kent. And all I've heard in King George is our population is too low and their population is lower than ours. And to think that he did that, just think about the time if we can get something like that done. So no pressure, nothing like that. Just letting you know that you got some work to do, all right? But I'm really glad to have him, and I think he's gonna be great for King George County. I'm gonna go with Pastor Davis. Thank you so much for just keeping things in perspective. You know, you come in here, you might come in here angry, you come in here ready to be defensive or whatever, but thank you, just remind us of what's important. Pastor Shaw, thank you just for your support all the time. And every time I stop in Gallup, he's got a few words of wisdom for me, and I appreciate you for that. Jonathan, Social Services, I'm privileged to be on that board, and I took it on as like a challenge, but I'm enjoying being there. I'm learning a lot about just how important it is. And what I'm impressed most about over there is that they really care. Some people are just doing their job, but this is their life. They're doing it not for the money, even though that's great, but they're doing it because they absolutely love King George County and they love serving the people here. And that there's a lot to be said for that. I liked him so much and the way he ran his organization. I'm just going to say it. I walked up to him and said, I think you ought to run for county administrator. He looked at me and went, not yet. But anyway, I was just that's how much I think of him. So I think he's a great guy. Dennis, thank you for your service, my friend. I really appreciate it. I really do. I'm sure it'll be in the paper that you left us and all that, and I'll be sure to tell him what happened. Paul, thank you, sir. It's an honor to be part of what you guys are doing. And you guys have a good heart and a good mission with what you're doing, and I love being behind it. Kim, thank you. That's the first kind word I've ever heard you say about a board in all my years. And just thank you for saying that. Tristan, thank you for your service. Thank you for helping keep us accountable and just reminding us how important those things are. And hopefully we've met enough times that you know that the fire department is very important to us too, and I hope people know that. And if I left anybody out, there's a lot of people, I'm sorry. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. Mr. Stroud?
Bill did a good job of wrapping everything up. I started out by saying I'm not going to repeat everything everybody says. So I would like to say welcome aboard, Mr. Smolnik. For those people that are listening in, we've got a rock star. I would like for you to also note that the last board paid over $28,000 to the Berkeley Group to find a county administrator. This board paid Berkeley Group nothing. We found them ourselves. And Mr. Smolnik, nothing is impossible to this man. He uses his brain. He's got a lot of energy. He's not afraid to work. And he's a thinker. He's a communicator. He's a leader. And just stand by. A lot of good things are going to happen. He's going to compliment us very well, and we're very grateful to have you, sir, you and your family. Welcome aboard. Is anything we can do for you, let us know. I am grateful for the pastors who come out and speak at our meetings. I'm grateful to see the energy and just your involvement. I like to see people involved in the church. I like to see the church involved in the community, and I'm grateful for that. Tristan, thank you, sir. We're going to stay on top of the firehouse. We're going to stay on top of our EMS, our firefighters, and make sure we take care of the county. Everybody else, thank you very much. Appreciate your words, everything you said. Bill did a good job of taking care of that. Before I get off here, I need to state that I need to reappoint Mr. Kevin Myers to the Planning Commission. So.
Second.
Properly second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Chair votes aye. Thank you. Go ahead.
That's all I have, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Sullins?
Thank you, sir. So thanks everybody for coming out tonight. I appreciate that as always. I really wanted to say a special thanks to Pastor Davis, Pastor Shaw, and Ms. Lovell. I appreciate all the public comments, but I'm friends with those folks outside. And I was sharing with Pastor Shaw tonight, and I've said the same thing with Ms. Lovell before. One of the things I like about y'all is you don't always say nice, sweet, wonderful things. Sometimes you correct us when we need it. You do it with grace, and I really appreciate that. So thank you for believing in us. Thank you for kicking us in the butt when we need it, but doing it in a way that we can actually respond and help you out. So I appreciate that. Mr. Franklin, thanks for the work that you do. I lost you. I'm short. Okay, there you are. Thank you for the work that you do. I appreciate that, and I'm looking forward to trying to attend those events and be a part of it. Ms. Coleman, I want to clarify something. I appreciate your comment, but we don't just volunteer our time. We don't get paid a lot, but we do get paid a little bit. So I didn't want anybody thinking that we're just strictly volunteers. But I also want to recommend, go back and look at the video from last night. We didn't cut the school budget. In fact, we gave of the $1.7 million additional money that they asked for, we gave them $700,000 last night with an agreement that we would go back and look at it in August based on how much money they have left at the end of the year, what they still need and stuff like that. So at this point, we haven't cut the school budget. So we should be okay there. Mr. Stanton, thank you so much. What you do is, you truly are doing the work of the Lord. I appreciate that. So thank you for the people that you're helping, and thank you for representing this region in a way that it reflects really well on who we're supposed to be. So thank you for that. Ms. Dodge, thank you for the kind words. You're awesome, ma'am. I appreciate it. And then finally, Fireman Beverly, where'd you go? There you are. Dude, thank you for the work that you do, not just protecting our county, but protecting your own people in your union. I appreciate that. So thank you all again for coming out. My report this week, I know it sounds kind of long, but that was really more just a bunch of thank yous. My report's actually pretty short. Best thing of all, well, I'll get to that in a minute. Had a budget meeting last Wednesday that we got to attend. That seemed to go pretty smoothly. Minor hiccups, I think we worked those out for the most part last night when we had the joint meeting with the school board. Tomorrow night, there's a public meeting with the Potomac Development Group. That's for that Claydale West development, looking to bring a data center over there. It's going to be at Mary Washington Dahlgren campus. So come on out and hear more about that. And finally, the coolest thing I get to report this week is I'm a grandpa. I'm officially old now. My baby girl had her first baby girl yesterday. I'm sorry, Sunday.
Yeah. Ms. Benner?
Thank you. First off, I would like to reappoint Mr. Roger Nicely to the King George Parks and Rec, and Mr. Clark back there will be very happy that I do this.
Is there a second?
Second.
Properly second. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Thank you.
Why Mr. Clark is happy, I have to say, Mr. Nicely is one of the most enthusiastic folks for Parks and Recreation. And so it was my honor to reappoint him, especially if you like Frisbee golf. Mr. Nicely loves Frisbee golf. Ms. Dodge, it's good to see you back again. You used to be a frequent person before COVID that come to our meetings. And when I first saw you come back, I said, Ms. Dodge, you came back, because everybody told me she had moved out of the county. And so it's good to see a familiar face who I know watches everything. So thank you for coming back. Ms. Lavelle, I wanted to point out the cigarette tax. Many years, well, it seems many years ago, but it wasn't that many years ago, I had asked, that is one thing, of maybe giving the Service Authority some money from the cigarette tax, but that was kind of voted down. So that never really was successful. And I don't think it was ever enacted. So that's the answer to the cigarette tax question. The Brisbane homeless shelter, I made a point of talking about it the last time, because a lot of people don't realize that because of the way that they service those that are in need and homelessness, they do not get any federal money because they do not follow the federal HUD model. And there are two in the area, the Micah Ministries and Thurman Brisbane, and they have two different models of how they service homelessness. And unfortunately, because they do not follow the federal model, they do not get funding. And I know some of the localities have in the past recently cut their funding. And so I think both are important. So I know you service quite a few. King George, and going to your event where you had your fundraiser, a couple of months ago, you have a lot of support in the community. So I thank you for coming out. I'm going to say Dennis because I forgot your last name, but I appreciate, because sometimes people think VDOT is hard to work with, but both you and Mr. Beal have made, at least for me, not hard to work with, because anytime I call, they address it as soon as they can. And Mr. Beal called me the day after our very controversial VDOT 301 meeting, and I'm going to ask him about it when he gives his report, because there's some good ideas that maybe we could give the citizens some more input. So I wanted to point that out. I also want to congratulate, and if I butcher your first name, I so apologize, because I sometimes am terrible at names until I get them right. Lakeisha, did I get it? LaQuisha. I apologize, Fields, because she was just promoted to the rank of Sergeant of the Court Services Division. And that's important because we got a big courthouse coming in, and she's going to be helping with our security. So I want to acknowledge her. She's in the back, and I want to thank her. I tell you why she impresses me too is there was an incident at a football game this fall, and the first person out there to separate the coaches from both teams, Cortland and King George, she was the one doing it, and she got them to calm down, and I was like, that was pretty amazing. So I can acknowledge her once again for her good work for our county. Thank you very much. Reverend Shaw, I always appreciate your good humor when you come up here, and I don't want to acknowledge and spend 5,000 years going through everybody, but I appreciate everyone who gives comment. Always, I'm a phone call away from talking, and just call me on the phone, and I love to hear and talk for people. Mr. Shaw sent me a very long email that anyone can read at any time, and has a lot of suggestions. And the last thing I want to talk about is I got invited to Fort Walker's Executive Steering Committee last week. One of our, Roan Graves, who helps out with economic development, she asked me to come to represent King George and on the EDA side, just to give some highlights of what's going on. And it was a good meeting, and I appreciate Roan for inviting me, because we got to talk about some issues that are happening on Fort Walker that possibly could benefit King George. And one of them is maybe possibly getting the Army Corps of Engineers to do a study on seeing whether there could be a reservoir created on Fort Walker. And that's like way out, but you know, with our surface water needs, that is maybe a possibility, and that would be cool to have us another option. So that is the end of my report, and thank you everybody for coming out.
Mr. Strauss, you said you had one more comment?
Yes, sir. I failed to mention that myself and Mr. Davis both were blessed to be able to attend the King George Junior ROTC ball last Saturday evening. And that was a grand event. So it's my first one to attend. I attend a lot of Marine Corps balls, but I haven't attended one here at King George yet. And it was really a good time. So appreciate that.
Thank you. So our superintendent for VDOT's leaving, and we wish you well. I still have to give you kudos. I would drive down a road, there'd be a hole in it. I was going to call Mr. Beal, come back through, the hole's being fixed. I never even got to call him. Drive down the road, there's a tree hanging. 45 minutes later, didn't call Mr. Beal, there's a VDOT crew out there. I mean, y'all are Johnny on the spot. Y'all have done a great job, and we really appreciate it. So thank you so much. So Reverend Davis, is he gone? Still there. So you kind of characterized the positive and the negative of some of the board members, and so yes, I am the grease on the wheel. My youngest daughter calls me a turtle. And I say, why do you call me a turtle? She said, because you have a hard outside, a soft inside, and your feet are really rough. So I think that characterizes me. I do have a hard exterior, and I do have a soft heart for people and our community, children, and to do what's best for everyone in God's name. The board reviewed a budget that was with no tax increases, where it was not painful at all. It was the best budget that's ever been put forth, to my recollection in King George. Paul, so when we had a discussion in the budget about the homeless shelter in Fredericksburg, we all were unanimous, because we know that y'all give a hand up, not a hand out. And you run a wonderful place there. And you are a resident of King George, which is an added plus. Ms. Dodge, it's nice to see you back out again. And that is the first positive comment I've ever heard you make. I'm not saying that negatively. This level, thank you. Thank you everyone else for coming out. Mr. Franklin, you do a wonderful work. We appreciate you. And everyone else in the room, thanks for coming out. And I would be remiss Mr. Beverly, I'll be meeting with you sometime in May. If you listen to the discussions, other than Facebook, you'll see that all the Board of Supervisors support the fire department. We want what's best for you and the community. That means firefighters and the community. So we have some skill up here that can help out and help the citizens and keep everything in line. Basham, the deputy chief, right? He's retiring. I'd like to have a round of applause for your many years of service. Appreciate you. Coming back part-time as a bailiff. So thank you, everyone. We appreciate all your kind comments, and we also appreciate the comments so we can move forward. This board is doing very well, and it's a pleasure for me to be a member of it. Mr. Rosario, you have any comments? Thank you. All right. Consent agenda for the Board of Supervisors.
I'll make a motion to accept the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Properly second. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Everyone's aye. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I think the sheriff had something to report.
I haven't got down there yet.
Okay.
So 4/29/07, approval of minutes for February 20th, March 5th, and March 19th.
I'll make a motion to accept the approval of the minutes as presented.
Second.
Properly seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Constitutional officers, Ms. Regina Puckett, do you have anything for the board? Thank you. Sheriff?
Mr. Chairman and members of the board, I'd be remiss if I didn't commend Mr. Maxey as well. To be working with a superintendent that's such as he was with the sheriff's office, because during the inclement weather, all I had to do was pick the phone up or one of my supervisors and call him, and exactly what you said, Mr. Collins, he was there. Give you a quick example of that. 2 weeks ago, a tree fell across 301 down by Jersey Road. The procedure is for us to call the TOC, which is their traffic command center. They would dispatch the units to it. Mr. Maxey from day one said, here's my phone, call me first. Called him first. I said, this is what we got going on. We're going to call the TOC. Before they could be even dispatched by the TOC, he was on scene, and we were cutting the tree up with what he had, and then his machinery got there and cleared the road within an hour. Had we done it procedurally wise, I'm not sure how long it would have taken. So, Mr. Maxey, you lead by example. You are the first one on the scene. You are there, and you are doing the job, and you will be sorely missed by my office for sure. So, thank you for the job you do. Appreciate it. So on Monday, March 26, 2024, Deanna Price from the Commissioner of the Revenue's office and Deputy Simon conducted their inspections of the stores selling cigarettes in King George County. I'm pleased to report that there were no violations to report. All the stores were compliant with all the required paperwork and the monthly forms. I also want to add that Walmart in Dahlgren is no longer selling cigarettes. They've removed all the cigarettes from the shelves, and the Valero store at the corner of Kings Highway and Dahlgren Road closed on the 7th of April and will no longer be checked for the cigarettes. I also want to report that on the past Thursday, a grand jury was held. There were 79 indictments brought in front of that grand jury. 78 of them were King George Sheriff's Office indictments. One was the state police, all returned with true bills. So one more thing I'd like to do is I'd like to bring Sean McEwen forward. He's the project manager for
the radio upgrade, and he's going to give you a real quick brief on where we are with that radio upgrade. So, Sean?
I can click. Okay. All right. Members of the board, thank you. This is the second time I've been able to come back and make a presentation, and I really appreciate the time. Last time I was here, I was able to discuss how we tested our system in the controlled environment. That was a system that was going to be implemented here in the county. To this day, I want to go through and show some of the progress, where we're at, some of the construction steps, and where we are at today with the project. Just a quick overview. The purpose of the system is to go from a conventional system to a trunk system. This is going to allow for more simultaneous conversations in the county, and that way emergency services can have more conversations at one time and be able to effectively communicate with each other without stepping on each other. This allows for EMS, dispatch, and the sheriff's office to be able to talk all at one time if there's multiple emergencies going on. So it's a pretty significant step. We're upgrading 2 existing sites. One of the sites down at Accurate Auto and the EMS tower behind the old school, and 4 new sites, one in off of Luca Road, one in Kingsmill, one next to the Hillcrest Hotel, and Sealston out going towards Fredericksburg. Let's see if I can get this right here. All right, so I was able to go around and get some pictures. We have construction crews come out and prepare some of the sites. So they were able to dig up and level the ground, prepare foundations so that we could put new shelters in, new generators and propane tanks. That way every site is self-sufficient and can stay supported through inclement weather. Inside the shelters, you have your new system. The microwave system and the radio system are being installed. We've installed all brand new antennas and microwaves on all the sites. So we are getting much closer to completion, and we are completing the construction phase now, and we are aligning and pathing all of our antennas to make sure that the county has the coverage that it was promised. All right, so what's coming up? So testing and optimizing is what is going to be our biggest next step. We want to make sure that we're ensuring all the dispatch facilities and emergency vehicles, they're all equipped. So all of the new radios have been installed in the fire trucks and in the sheriff's vehicles. Coming up next, we'll have all the schools and school buses. They will be connected into this service, so they'll be able to directly contact emergency services through this network. And the whole entire purpose is to have a safer King George County by having all these services come together. And the project completion, we're looking at the beginning of August, end of July. It should be done by then.
All right, thank you. Is there any questions? Seeing none. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you so much.
Are there any questions in reference to my report?
Any questions for the sheriff's report?
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Jones, Randy Jones. Okay.
The only thing, Mr. Chairman, I've been working with the superintendent today to try to figure out the most cost-effective manner to get the architectural engineering report that you'll need for to place the referendum, because you have to have a fairly precise number to include in that document that the county attorney then will have to present to the circuit court for approval for the election. And I believe the registrar emailed that information and code sections to you today to review. So I'm working with the superintendent. I've talked to a number of architectural firms who believe that probably just getting Mosley, since they have a lot of the information, they could assemble it much cheaper than somebody else coming in from scratch. So we'll sit down and see if we can negotiate a price on doing that requirement.
All righty. Thanks, sir. Stuart?
I've got some items on down in the agenda, Mr. Chairman, but
okay. Question, sir, for one?
Yes, sir, Mr. Savi. If just if they provide that estimate, doesn't mean that they're getting the contract to do the work, just that they're.
No, we're just meeting with them to see what they would charge, do the preliminary architectural report that would provide an overall estimate that you could use in the document for placing it on the ballot for the fall.
Thank you, sir.
All righty. There's, besides the referendum, there's also other choices like raising the occupancy tax and some other choices available too. Ms. Bender, Board of Directors.
Thank you very much. Do I have a motion for the Board of Directors for the consent agenda?
So moved.
I have a motion. Any second?
Second.
I have a motion properly seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Chair votes aye, motion carries. Move on to the interim county attorney report. Mr. Stewart?
About 10 minutes.
I put them all together. They're all
I have some things later in the agenda, Madam Chair, but nothing right now.
All right, thank you. All right, next up is the Imboden Environmental Services Report. Mr. Mark Imboden.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board. Good to see everyone this evening. So as always, we'll go through the previous month's operations and we'll hit up the highlights for both water and wastewater and provide you guys any opportunity that you need to ask questions about the report that we've submitted. This is a very brief review of the very comprehensive report that we provide to the board on a monthly basis. So please read through that and feel free to give me a call or we can set up a meeting with our team and our staff to go over any questions that you may have. All right, so for the month of March, for the water side, we had a compressor for the Hopyard Farms hydropneumatic tank had failed. King George County came in and they replaced a Mercoid switch. It's a switch that allows for the water level to be maintained properly in the hydropneumatic tank. It's a tank that has half air, half water, and uses the compressive nature of air to maintain or sustain pressure of water in the distribution system. And so that's a critical part of our water treatment side of things, for the distribution side of things, to be able to provide sustained pressure to the residents. And so that was a critical piece, and we appreciate the maintenance department's quick action there. We are in the process of doing our first semi-annual testing for lead and copper. We distributed sample kits, lead and copper sample kits, to 21 addresses, and 9 of those 21 sample kits that we've dropped off, they've been returned. This is going to be a very intricate orchestration between Patty and her office and the customers, because it's up to the customer to receive the bottle, read the sampling instructions, collect the sample, and notify us that it has been collected. And so there's a big process to that, and it's a big customer involvement side of things. And so any help that we can get from the community with that would certainly be appreciated. Quarterly samples for January through March, they've all been collected and they've all been processed through the state lab. Also, there has been some valve working and replacement at the Hopyard water system by the maintenance staff that's been ongoing. And then also, lastly, we wanted to bring to your all's attention that VDH sent notice to the Hopyard system, to King George County Service Authority, that there was a missing chlorine residual on a sample that was collected for a bacteriological sample. It requires some notification to the citizens in the Hopyard facility. Everything was within proper specifications, but with that missing sample residual at time of collection, it happens twice a month. That was not taken, and so our team made the necessary corrective actions, and that is going to be a customer notification that we're going to have to do on the consumer confidence report. And so that concludes the water side, and be happy to take any questions you have, and especially about that last one.
Do I have any questions on that? Any question? Right,
Okay.
go ahead.
All right, for the wastewater side, we are still receiving high organic loading at a lot of our wastewater treatment plants, but most notably Dahlgren and Perkins. At Perkins, the wastewater treatment is, the state of Perkins is such that it cannot handle high organic loading. And because of that, we are continuing to have TKN violations, which is a nutrient species of nitrogen. The plant is not able to take that loading to treat it. We're getting greater than 95% removal rating, which DEQ SCAT regulations recommend 85%. So we're exceeding the removal rating, but with the amount of concentration coming in, the plant's just not designed to handle it. And so we're making the best best of it that we can with the conditions that were provided. And that includes supplemental feeding of bacteria to metabolize the fats, oils, and grease that we receive. Effluent flow meter calibrations were performed. We also performed routine maintenance on blowers and pumps, and did a series of routine inspections and replacements of oil belts and filters. There was a widespread power outage that affected all of our facilities. During those times, we like to ensure that the transfer switches, the automatic transfer switches, operate effectively. They all did. All of the wastewater plants came online during that power outage. The generators came online during that power outage. And so we have good working equipment there. We do have some serious equipment failures that we wanted to bring to the board's attention. For Dahlgren, we had rotors and a mixer and also the belt press that has malfunctioned. And it is our goal that we can continue working through the itemized capital outlay plan that our team has provided. And most, if not all, of these items were mentioned on that capital outlay plan. We gave priority to those, indicating their importance to the treatment process. For Dahlgren, the rotors that provides mixing as well as aeration to the plant, and dissolved air in the plant. That's a heartbeat of a wastewater treatment plant, and so that was pretty detrimental when that happened. Thankfully, we have great staff here with John Eisenweiss and his crew. They were able to come in and make those repairs and put our rotors back online. And then at Perkins, we had an auger as well as a grinder go out. That's equipment that is in the headworks of the plant. It chews things up as it comes in and it augers it out. Those failed, and the maintenance staff was able to come in and make those repairs. So a lot happened in March on the wastewater side, and so but more information is provided in your monthly reports. And again, be happy to take any questions that you have.
Does anyone have any questions? No questions? All right, Norm, go ahead.
Yes, Mr. Bowden, I've talked a little bit to some of the staff about the belt press at Dahlgren, and it's my understanding that bad shape is probably not even the best description of it. And it's my understanding too that it would have to be disassembled if you purchased a new one rather than a garage door or some opening where you could just pull it out and replace it promptly. Is that correct?
That's correct.
In that, so is that belt press basically being wired together or something? Is that something that should be a high priority?
It is a high priority. Thankfully, we actually resourced a company called Langley Separation. They're out of Texas. They have access to parts and retrofitted units that they've accumulated over the years. The manufacturer of this belt press is no longer in business, and so that creates a very difficult element to repairing this belt press. But with his access to some of those parts and repairs, as well as salvaged equipment, he's able to come in, assess, and make repairs as needed. That is probably a short-term solution and could get us by until we are able to put a new belt press in there. But belt presses are very expensive, very costly. And I think it can get us by into the point where the hop yard facility is then online. The plan is to have a second place to haul sludge and process residual solids at that facility. And during that time, after that is up and running and proven that it's reliable, that would be an excellent time to either take the belt press down at Dahlgren, install a new one, or if able, rehabilitate that one to where it's reliable in its operations.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
And thank you very much, because that one, I remember when I first came on the board, it was not in the best shape, and it's only continued, but even the best efforts of John and his crew to keep it up and running. And I was kind of surprised that they literally built the building around the belt press. And that's why it would have to be disassembled to put a new one in there. You can't just get it out very easily. So
it's quite a machine, and it's a lot of moving parts on it. And so, but it is very crucial to the operations of the plant, and also the 4 other plants that we have. All the other facilities bring their solids to the Dahlgren facility for processing by that belt press. And so it's key not only to the Dahlgren operations, but also to the other plants throughout the county.
thank you. I appreciate that. And thank you for clarifying about the VDH, because I know when people see that, they get a little concerned, but it was I could say a clerical error, but it is something that you have to address in the consumer report.
Absolutely.
Does anybody else have any other questions? All right, thank you so much.
Appreciate it.
All right, next up, I will give the Service Authority update. One of the things, we finalized the hop yard water permit. It goes out for public comment. This is a common practice. And then when it's finalized, when DEQ finishes their public comment period, then it is finalized, and it is an active permit for 15 years. We will be meeting soon, Mr. Rasavi and I, with DEQ and Bryce Young on the ARPA funds. There were some documents that need to be attended to that kind of got left in the cracks, and we're going to be working on that to get that, to make sure that we receive all the ARPA funds for the decommissioning and the bringing the water and sewer lines to Hop Yard. I talked this week with staff and the county engineer to finalize my report that I'm hoping to bring in the first meeting of May. And in Bowdoin, I want to thank you for providing Ms. Cobb and her staff the chemical needs so that we can make sure we have budgeted properly for the rest of the chemical needs until the end of the fiscal year, or until June 30th. And one other thing we need to address with the Dahlgren sludge press, but one of the other things is, John has brought this to my attention, is we really need to replace the excavator. So I'll be talking to Ms. Cobb and procurement about how we can go about that, the proper process to bring that back to the board to get an excavator that we can use for the facility. And then one last thing I want to bring to everyone's attention, and I'll be talking to Mr. Stroud about one part of this, because walking over the Service Authority grounds, John and I did that last week. I've taken a tour with Patty on the Service Authority grounds. We have a lot of vehicle and stuff that needs to be either disposed of or sold for steel, whatever it is, including this. So some collector, a nice old F-150 from the 1980s that needs to find a new home. But these are all things that, we can maybe find some money for the Service Authority from that, of the sale of the property. The other thing I want to talk to Mr. Stroud is, there are 2 identified buildings that were identified a long time ago that needed to be gotten rid of off of the property because it was a VDOT, correct, Mr. Beal? It was a VDOT facility many years ago. And so there are some things still on there from that time. And there is a location, if we got rid of those 2 buildings and the 1 office and put a steel building there with an office for John and his staff, we could have a better place to store the equipment and to maybe even put some inventory there. But there is a spot for it. There is some fill land, but there is a spot, but we'd have to dispose of a couple of buildings. So Mr. Stroud will be looking to get some advice on, since you're beginning on that. So that is the end of my report. Does anybody have any questions? All right. With that being said, I will open up a secondary public comment to address meeting business matters only. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes per person in order to afford everyone an opportunity to speak. Please provide your full name and district when submitting your public comment so that it can be properly recorded and included in the public record. Does anybody have any public comment? Is there anybody online, Mr. Dines?
No, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Is there any other public comment? All right. With that being said, can I have a motion for adjournment?
Just one quick question before we adjourn. I know Mr. Stewart had a couple things he was going to reference later in the meeting. I know there was a time for you and the supervisors and the service authority. Is there anything remaining while I'm here that we need to? Okay.
No, Madam Chair, it's for the Board of Supervisors.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Lee. So do I have a motion?
Yeah, with that note, I'll make a motion to adjourn the Board of Directors until May 7th in the King George River Combs Boardroom at 5:30.
Do I have a second? I have a motion properly second. Any further discussion?
We're actually meeting again April 24th, right?
What? We're talking about the Service Authority, not the Board of Supervisors.
Yeah, I thought we met together.
Only for the Board of Supervisors.
Yeah, it's only Board of Super for public hearing.
Okay.
Don't confuse me there, Sully. All right.
Confused all the time. Come to my world, you'll like it.
I have a motion properly seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion adjourned. Mr. Collins?
4-30, VDOT Secondary 6-Tier Plan. Mr. Beal.
Good evening. Mr. Vasavi, it's good to work with you again. You probably thought you'd seen the last one of these presentations, but I'm glad you get to witness another one. This is the draft secondary 6-year plan. So we're talking about secondary routes. We have secondary routes and primary routes. The easiest way to tell them apart is the secondary routes are numbered 600 and above. So everything 599 and below is a primary route. So in King George, 3, 301, 218, 206, 205, those are all your primary routes. All the other roads are your secondary routes. And that's what this plan addresses. It is a 6-year plan. So we're talking about fiscal year 25 through 30. The funding comes from 2 different sources. That's hard to see on the slide, but it comes from telefees and unpaved road funds. Thank you, Mr. Dines. The telefees come from utility companies. That's a right-of-way usage fee. So they're redistributed for localities to prioritize for road improvements. The unpaved road funds are to be used on existing state-maintained gravel roads to hard surface them. We want to get rid of all the gravel roads that VDOT maintains. That's what that funding is for. Traditionally, the board has used both telefees and unpaved road funds to hard surface existing state-maintained gravel roads. But that doesn't mean that's what you have to do. If you know of a drainage problem somewhere and we need to buy a drainage easement to address it, you can use your telefees to buy right-of-way. If you know of a sight distance issue somewhere, we need to buy a sight distance easement so we can cut the trees so you can see better at an intersection. You could use telefees to do that. Those are just some examples of some things you can use that funding for. But traditionally, we've been paving existing state-maintained gravel roads with surface treatment. So when we're done, I'll sign off on it, and the county administrator will sign off on it. All right. Can you zoom back in a little bit, or out, I guess? Go to the next slide. There we go. Okay. So these are the projects that are identified in the current plan. Currently, Prim Road and most of the work on Prim is done. I'd hoped to have it done by now, but with the weather, we haven't been able to get that paved. It should be done probably next week. About half of Prim Road has already been surface treated. This is the other half. So we've tightened our pencil up on that and carried the leftover funds over to the other projects. Dixon Lane, we've done some ditch work on Dixon Lane. We aren't finished with that. We actually haven't officially started it, but Dennis has done some preemptive, he made a preemptive strike with some ditching on Dixon Lane. So we don't have much more to do on Dixon. These are projects that the board has already prioritized in previous updates. Bald Eagle, let me go to the next one. Bald Eagle is the elephant in the room. It's a long gravel road. It's going to take a lot of money to hard surface it. It was prioritized, I think, last year. I do think after we finish Prim and Dixon, we'll start to take a little harder look at Bald Eagle and see if we can bring that estimate down a little bit once we do some stone depth checks and really fine tune how much stone we'll have to place on that before we hard surface it. I'm hoping we can bring that in at least to fiscal year 27, maybe even to 26. But the other two categories there, the countywide engineering survey, and then also the future unpaved road funds. You see the bottom of there you go. Yeah, you can see there's about $450,000 between those two categories in the 6-year plan. That's where we park all the unallocated money. So the board really has a couple options to consider for this update. We update this plan every year. So it's going to be at least through fiscal year 26, which is the summer of 25, before we do Bald Eagle, and that's the next project in the plan. So one option is not to do anything with the public hearing next month. We can just let the money accumulate and you can prioritize something next year. Or if you know what you want to do and we feel like the estimate is less than, around $400,000, you can prioritize something this year and go ahead and add it to the plan. And then it'll just wait until all the funding accumulates, until enough funding is available to start working on that. The next slide, this is a little, some information about the Rural Rustic Program. That's what we call the program that we use to hard surface existing state maintained gravel roads. It has to be a road that's already in the state system. So we're not taking new gravel roads. We're not taking private roads into the state system with this program. It can't carry more than 1,500 vehicles per day. It has to be identified as a priority line item in the secondary 6-year plan. It should mostly be local traffic. So if you know of a big rezoning or a big project that you're planning to approve on one of these gravel roads, it may not be a good candidate for a rural rustic. We do make main drainage improvements. And this is your list of all your existing state maintained gravel roads. And the ones in yellow are the ones that have more than 50 vehicles per day. And until we exhaust that list, all the unpaved road funds have to be used on a road that has more than 50 vehicles per day. The ones in the right-hand column, you'll see that 6-year improvement plan column. The ones with a Y there, they're already in the plan. So they haven't been hard surfaced yet, but they're already in the plan. So that's Prim, Bald Eagle, and Dixon. The traffic count, every year we update the traffic count, and those are 2022 numbers. And I will say Big Timber made a big jump this year. It went from about 40 vehicles a day in 21 up to 188 vehicles per day last year when we counted it. I'm not sure why that is, but it was certainly at a mile. It's probably about $400,000 to hard surface that. I think if I was to make a recommendation, my recommendation would be to do Big Timber next based on the work orders and calls that I get about Big Timber. Alden is one. That's one of the longer roads, 2 miles. We probably have to break that up into phases to tackle that one. That would be another good candidate. But any of these are good projects. I would say we tried to add Canning Way a couple years ago, and there was some opposition to that, and I would expect that opposition to still be in place. But any roads that we can use telefees to do the ones on the bottom half. So if there's one of the roads on the bottom half of that list that you're passionate about, we could use telefees on that and not the unpaved road funds. And again, if you want to wait a year and let the money accumulate, we got plenty of work to do on Dixon and Bald Eagle. So you're not losing any time, you're not losing any money, by waiting a year. Since since the county receives more than $100,000 in the secondary 6-year plan annually, we have to update the plan every year. That's it for the presentation. Do you have any questions for me? And again, this just a presentation to get you thinking about what your thoughts are. Next month, we'll have a public hearing, and we'll get the public's comments.
Ms. Bender?
Yeah, so can we bring back the road list again? So I wanted to make you aware, Big Timber, that there is a solar project that has an application that is current, and Big Timber is part of that. So my concern about spending a lot of money with Big Timber is if that did get approved, I would be concerned that that would be wasted money. And I've pointed that out to the developer that we've spent a lot of money in that area, especially for those citizens. So if the project is approved and a lot of work is done, we have to make sure that it's made right in the end, because there's going to be a lot of truck traffic on that road. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention.
Thank you. I was not aware of that. The solar projects, there's a whole lot of traffic during construction, and then once they're built, there's not really, if somebody comes to cut the grass, there's not a lot of traffic. I don't know what the timing of that project might be, but with Bald Eagle, at least a couple years out, and then we'd have to accumulate funds for Big Timber. You're really into the last years of the 6-year plan before we would get to it. So there may be time that you could build the facility, and then we could service treat it when we were done, 5 or 6 years from now.
I just wanted to make you aware of that, because that kind of changes it. And I know I've had a lot of citizens on Bald Eagle ask about that, but I have 2 other questions, but they're related to not the 6-year plan. So I'll pass it off to come back.
So I'm not familiar with all the roads there. I'm in here in James Monroe District.
I couldn't tell you. I can get
Well,
you a report.
That's the one I want prioritized myself.
I don't think nobody's interested in that.
Do you have a question? Any questions? I would be curious by district.
Mr. Bill Lotter in Shiloh, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, the east side of 301.
Okay.
Can I ask my other 2 questions, Mr. Beer?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, I'm getting that. So my next one is Mr. Sullins and I did attend the very robust and somewhat controversial VDOT 301 event at the high school. So you called me afterwards and we had some discussion. So I just wanted we could talk about that there are other options. I know the public comment period ended yesterday, correct?
That's right.
So
yeah, so the comment period ended yesterday, and the meeting that we had was a design public hearing. So like we talked about in the meeting, we looked at several different alternatives with the study, and the alternative that was selected was brought forth, and that was a process we went through about 7 years, started 7 years ago, and I guess 2018 the application went through. So the hearing was really, or the design public hearing was really to communicate the design and get feedback on the design. And we got a lot of feedback. And I think we learned a lot about some of the unique features of the road concerning the base, the seasonal peaks, seasonal traffic. And we're working to, consider those comments, analyze the options. I think there's potential for some additional signalization with some of the U-turns. I can't promise you anything tonight. I think next month, since comment period just closed, we've had a month to look at all the comments and see what we can do to address some of that. So I can probably give you some more definitive direction that we want to head next month at the public hearing. We are talking about looking hard at some additional signalization at some of the U-turns so that when the corridor is congested. One of the comments that just sticks with me, somebody said, when that's all backed up, if there's not a signal there, nobody's letting me in. I'm not going to be able to go anywhere. And so I think that's something we have to address. And we're looking at that. And we want to build a project that will work for everyone, but it is new. And the department favors innovation. So we want to use the right of way that we have as efficiently as we can, and make a cost-effective project that's an improvement for the corridor. So we got to work it out for us, and I hope to give you more direction next month.
And I appreciate that because you took a lot of hits at that meeting from the citizens who felt it was a done deal and that there was no more feedback. But I just want people to know VDOT did listen.
Yeah, thank you.
And so there are some concern because you didn't even know about the fourth fire station that could be in that one location that would affect one of the U-turns. So I do appreciate that, and I wanted everybody to hear that so that they knew that there's another chance to give comment probably in the end.
Right.
And then my last question, and I've talked to you about this before, is especially with the speed being raised on 301. I mean, I'm only saying this from personal experience in my road and the several accidents that have happened recently because we don't have a pull-off lane. And so I just wanted to reach out again to maybe we could take a tour of that area because it's not just saying it for myself. There are other residents that live on that stretch near the Unique Antique Mall that have trouble making left-hand turns into their driveways because there's no pull-off. And when semis are going 60, 65, 70 behind you, they don't even sometimes recognize your signaling. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention again.
Thank you. And I look forward to meeting with you. We can ride it.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Beal, this is maybe a little bit off subject, but so I travel Windsor and 301 often, and there's a lot of people running the red light. I know there's enforcement action, but I don't know if they know there's a light there coming up. So I'm talking about semi trucks just plowing through. If you don't pause, it's a bad spot. I don't know if you could put any additional signing up. It's just a concern.
That's okay. Yeah, 301.
Coming
218.
Coming north, coming up the hill. They don't have enough speed to run the light. Anybody else have any questions, concerns?
Yeah, just real quick. I'm glad you guys are hopefully reconsidering how you're doing that, the VDOT study. I've gotten so many calls, just inundated with calls concerning concerned citizens over it. I haven't found anyone really happy about it. And I think most people's consensus that you probably already heard, it's just outdated in 2019. A lot changed in 2020 because Maryland basically shut down their state during COVID, and when we stayed open. So that's really when we started seeing the uptick in traffic and all that. And then after 2020, it just continued. Then when the bridge came up, and it's really just continued as far as the things go. So people are just concerned about how if it's going to cause more issues or just move the power points to the problem points to just a different spot, and if it's really going to help. So I would just be curious to see what I know the report costs money. It's like $500,000 or something like that, but doing a reevaluation of the traffic patterns, how they are today, and just take those things into consideration if possible. Thank you, though.
Yeah, I would say I don't want to mislead you. The projects are what the projects are. We're looking at tweaking the designs, but we're not looking at like an overall redesign or new concept. So we're looking at what we can do within the design, to enhance it, but we're not looking to redesign. The other thing I think is important, I looked at some traffic volume. I've been looking at traffic volume numbers a lot lately, but we are just now getting back to like 2017, 2018, 2019 volumes. They dropped during COVID in 2020, and then they started creeping back up. So we're, to your comment about the traffic, the study is old. It was older. It is older, but it's still valid. Like the design year in the study was 2048. So we project those volumes out, and the volumes that we're using now, the study didn't know COVID was coming. So COVID basically bought us a few years with traffic volumes as far as the projections, because we grow those out annually. So I think our numbers are still good, but we are looking at the design and seeing how we can enhance it to make it more palatable.
Solons?
Thank you.
You can come back to me.
Okay. I just wanted to, again, thank you for coming out tonight, but I've got a meeting on Friday at 3 o'clock with a couple members of our planning commission that have a bunch of questions about this. I realize at short notice you may be working at that time, but if you want to join us at Starbucks at 3 o'clock on Friday, I'd appreciate it. And I echo some of the concerns that the board members have had and some of the citizens have. It seems like this design puts a heavy priority on keeping traffic moving down 301 with King George local traffic being a very secondary thing. I know you mentioned in your presentation, I think it was like 13 seconds, going from 40 some odd seconds down to about 13 to 15 seconds at a light, but you're also going to spend a lot of time getting across the street, doing the U-turn, coming back. I mean, sure, if you save me 30 seconds at the light, but I'm still going to go in circles for 30 seconds, it doesn't really buy me much. So I would appreciate anything that you can do to try to tweak this design, make it a little bit more efficient for the folks that actually live here.
Mr. Stroud, you had a question?
Sure. So, Mr. Beal, a couple months ago, I mentioned to, I think it was Mr. Carter and yourself about Millbank and Port Conway. And I believe Mr. Carter went and put like an orange plastic, I don't know what you call that thing, but it's a marker at the corner of the road there. Because I said that where the road comes together, that corner, there's like a deep, it just, for anything trying to turn out of there other than a car, but like any trucks and trailers or anything through there, the trailers run off the road. And it's a very abrupt stop. And it's a ranching, farming community, so people turn with trailers there. And I've turned there myself and hit that with a trailer and I welcome you to come out with me too. And you're welcome to drive my truck and trailer and make that turn and see if you can make it. You have to cross into oncoming traffic to make the turn. So it's on the west side. It's on the west, right? You make it right. If you're on Millbank, you make it right on Port Conway, right there. And I believe what really needs to happen, because somebody, I think, he put that marker there, and it lasted maybe a day before somebody run over it. And now it's just bent off to the side. Really, I think what needs to happen is a piece of pipe needs to be put in there and the pavement extended so that somebody can make that turn without crossing into oncoming traffic. There's a lot of high traffic that comes through there. Trucks, large trucks, commercial trucks, they take from 301, they take Port Conway to hit Route 3. So, and of course you have the gravel pits down there. So it's just kind of a rough place. And with that, on Millbank, you've got a lot of gravel trucks that go down Millbank, and Millbank only has a center line to like half of it. And is there anything you can do to put a line down the rest of it?
Yeah, I'll check. If the road narrows, we don't put a center line if the road's so narrow that, because people typically drive in the center of the road and then they kind of move over when a car comes, you move over on the narrow roads. But I'll look at both of those issues and see what we can do. It may be, and I'm not, I need to look at it, but just so you could be thinking about it. A lot of these secondary roads were constrained by the right of way that we have. If they're Bird Act roads, we typically only have 30 feet of right of way, so 15 feet from center line. So if that intersection is as wide as it can be within the existing right of way, it would be a candidate for a secondary 6-year plan improvement if that was something that the board wanted to spend those dollars on. We could buy some right away, put in a bigger radius. I can't use maintenance funds to buy right away. I can use maintenance funds to buy pipe, but not right away. So I'll look into it and we'll see what our options are.
So you definitely have my vote, and that road is also part of, it goes on Shiloh as well, so possibly Ms. Vendors, but I'm interested to hear about that. Thank you.
Okay, we'll look into it.
All righty. Thank you, sir.
I would just make one more comment on my report. The Cape Seal is underway in Dahlgren. They're starting with some crack sealing. And just for those of you that are newer to the board, Cape Seal is a process. All right, it takes a few weeks. It starts as surface treatment. So it goes down with liquid asphalt and then an aggregate layer and liquid asphalt, then an aggregate layer, and then a sand. And then it sits for a couple weeks and the contractor's gonna leave, and then they'll come back and they come back with a slurry that fills in kind of all the little cracks and makes it look like plant mix asphalt, like black asphalt. I'm gonna tell you, it's a mess. We'll get some complaints, but give it a few weeks, let them come back, finish the job, and it's a nice product when it's all done. But you know, it's like refinishing hardwood floors or something. It's a dusty mess. But when it's all done, it looks nice. So just hang in there.
Okay, thank you. All right, we're going to take a 5-minute break.
It's cold in here.
King George Board of Supervisor meeting convening at 7:19. Next item on the list is Department of Finance Procurement, Ms. Cook, Sealston and Potomac Elementary Schools cafeteria drive line replacement.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. At the school board's March 25th meeting, the school board approved a spending plan for the food services account fund balance that included the replacement of the service line at Sealston Elementary. The Board of Supervisors' approval for this purchase is required for use of this fund balance. Staff recommends that the Board of Supervisors authorizes King George County Schools to authorize the purchase of the cafeteria serve line replacement at Sealston Elementary School in the amount of $88,413 from the food services fund balance.
Okay. Is there any questions?
I have a question. I just want, because I don't know, how much money is in that account right now?
The cafeteria fund balance
Yes, ma'am.
has $1,591,465.
Thank you. I'd heard it was a good number. I just didn't know what it was, so thank you.
Mr. Sullins?
Ma'am, can you tell me what we're buying?
It's the serve line where I'm going to ask for help on this one.
Ms. Davis?
Now I need you.
Hello, everyone.
Good to see you.
Good to see you too.
I missed you.
It is a serving line where the children come through with their trays to get their meals, breakfast and lunch. The one at Sealston right now is a little over 25 years old, and the outside of it where the children touch it gets hot, so it has kind of singed a few kids. So we need to replace it this summer before school starts next year.
Any other questions?
I'd like to make a motion.
Go ahead, sir.
Make a motion to authorize King George County School to take the following action. Authorize the purchase of cafeteria service line at Sealston Elementary School in the amount of $88,413.
Second.
Properly second. Roll call. Mr. Davis?
Aye.
Mr. Sullins?
Aye.
Mr. Stroud?
Aye.
Bender?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Thank you.
Chair, sorry, excuse me. If we could make a friendly amendment for it to be from the food services fund balance.
It needs to specify which fund balance it's coming from.
Okay, so that's be a new motion.
Is it up there? Yes, make a motion to authorize the purchase of the cafeteria serving line at Sealston Elementary School in the amount of $88,413 from the food service fund balance.
Second.
Could you rescind your other motion too?
I rescind my other motion.
All right, properly second. Roll call. Mr. Davis?
Aye.
Mr. Sullins?
Aye.
Mr. Stroud?
Aye.
Spindler?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Thank you. Good to see you, Ms. Davis. Department of Finance Procurement, Ms. Barnesfield Playground.
Excuse me. Barnesfield Playground replacement was part of the FY 23-24 capital improvement plan. The replacement was funded at $125,000. Staff has negotiated the replacement, including demolition of the existing playground and installation of the new playground. The installation of the playground, including unnecessary construction and maintenance, is permitted using cooperative procurement to purchase. Cunningham Recreation provided all pricing subject to the Omnia Partners cooperative purchasing contract. This is the first time this is before the board tonight. Would you like for me to continue with staff recommendations?
Go ahead, ma'am.
Issue a notice of award to Cunningham Recreation in the amount of $124,976.22. Authorize the execution of a construction services agreement with Cunningham Recreation in the amount of $124,976.22. Establish the project budget as presented.
Okay. Is there any questions?
I have a quick question. I'm not against replacing it at all. Some of the stuff isn't that bad. And when I see demolish, remove, and dispose, it kind of bothers me just a little bit. I don't know if I know plenty of churches around that would love to have some stuff if you guys just don't want to throw it away.
Unfortunately, when the playground itself is over 20 years old, it has expended its useful life, and actually many of the grates, if you really look at them, the thermoplastic around it has eroded and water has gotten inside them. And that's what that is what forced us to replace the one arch bridge a couple years ago.
All right. Thanks.
All righty. Mr. Sullins?
Do y'all know when the park's going to reopen again?
What was the question?
You asked the Wayside Park, sir?
When is the park going to reopen?
You mean Wayside?
Yeah.
Wayside, as soon as VDOT turns it over to us, MDTA's got to get sign offs from VDOT, and then VDOT will send it back to us.
Gotcha. I appreciate it.
Yeah, they last meeting they had mentioned April, but I haven't heard anything, and we're halfway through.
Already, that was the first reading, so we'll put it on for action next month.
Thank you.
Thank you. 433, general properties, Mr. Pennington.
Hi, Chairman, members of the board. I'm Jim Bennington. I'm filling in for Mike Muncy. And what I'm trying to get is $88,072 for a metal building to locate us down by the sheriff's department. Any questions?
Short and sweet. Any questions?
I don't have any questions, sir. This is part of that original estimate that they received from Mosley that had the metal building at $301,000.
Million.
Well, the overall, Mosley gave the overall budget of over $3 million, but the metal building itself was $301,000. And after I had spoken at one meeting with the fire department, Chief Moody, Mike came to me the next day and we got a quote, and then he went out and worked with Mr. Salvi and got this. Now, this quote also includes not just the metal building, but it also includes insulation in the roof and the walls. So.
All right. Is it big enough?
It's 4,000 square foot.
Yeah.
What they asked for.
Everything can always be bigger, you know.
They're limited on the amount of land you've got, though, because the fall of that land, it'd cost to build it up. But
okay, so that's the first reading. Is there any other question? Mr. Salvi, go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, this is a federal contract, which I believe expires at the end of this month.
Yes, sir.
And so we would need to take action to get this purchase order processed. And then I've talked with Levita and the folks in purchasing. There would have to be a bid for the erection of it, the concrete work, electrical, and plumbing. But I'm pretty certain it's going to come in under a lot less than $3 million.
Okay.
Sure. And there are local companies that can do that.
Anyhow, on this subject matter, is there a motion?
Yes, sir. I'd like to make a motion that we award $88,072 for the purchase of a steel building for general properties.
Second.
Properly second. Roll call. Mr. Davis.
Aye.
Sullins.
Aye.
Stroud.
Aye.
Spinner.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, next thing is 434. Mr. Stewart, Castle Ground Tower lease.
Mr. Chairman, there's a lease on a tower at the middle school, and I'm filling in for Steve Basham, who apparently left. Apparently, Mr. Miller gave this to him sometime last year, and they asked me to figure this out. The upshot is Castle wants to renew this lease for an additional 30 years. There's already 10 years left on it, but their business model is such in getting carriers to locate, they want to make sure that they have a long time on the tower. And so these are the offers that Castle has made to the county in the form of three options. You can continue the lease as it is with a monthly payment, a 15% term escalation, 30-year lease extension. And then there are two options where they would actually buy a perpetual easement. Excuse me. And either pay you a lump sum payment for that or installment payments for that. This needs to be brought to your attention. You all need to think about it. Either way, there has to be a public hearing on this because you're encumbering public property. So if you all would think about it, excuse me, and at some point you need to authorize us to hold a public hearing. Excuse me.
Ms. Bender?
And this is the tower, after you get a drink there, this is the tower behind the old middle school on the
yes,
the road there.
best I understand.
All right, thank you.
All righty, we'll bring it back for action next month. It's Mr. Stewart, Freedom of Information Act, board report.
Mr. Chairman, we discussed this at the last meeting. The only thing that you all may want to consider is just to clarify the existing policy, and that would be with regard to the half hour. So we would reword that to say the fee attributable to time spent to prepare a response shall be based on the hourly salary rate, exclusive of benefits and other overhead costs of individuals compensated by the county for the services, if total time of all employees involved exceeds 30 minutes. So what that would then mean is you get 30 minutes free, and it's clear, but if it goes beyond that, then people would have to pay what that rate is. Virginia law does not allow you to charge any more than what it actually costs. And so any employee that works on a FOIA request, you boil that down to an hourly rate, and they have to tell you what their time was for doing it. And that's how the county gets reimbursed. And that's what the law, you can't make a profit. Nobody's trying to make a profit. It's just what the actual cost is in responding to that FOIA. So this just clarifies your policy that you only get charged if it's over 30 minutes.
30 minutes combined.
If it's over 30 minutes, period. And I couldn't say that I understood that before the way it was drafted. I didn't know if it was 30 minutes for 10 employees or how it was written, but I think this is what the board adopted last year. I think this clarifies that the first 30 minutes is free.
The first 30 minutes. So if Ms. Fish gets a FOIA request, takes her 15 minutes to read it, and she sends it to Mr. Dines for fulfillment, it takes him 16 minutes. That's 30 minutes, right? Not 30 apiece.
Correct.
Okay.
But I would tell the chairman that if it took 15 minutes to read it, it's probably going to be a very long FOIA.
It's on FOIA.
No, it's going to be a really long FOIA if it took 15 minutes to read the FOIA request itself.
As an example. Okay. All righty. Well, we'll move that on to the next meeting for. Hey, quiet, Mr. Stroud. Secondary public comment. Secondary public comment. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes per person in order to afford everyone an opportunity to speak. Please provide your full name and district when submitting your public comment so it can be properly included in the public record. Is there anyone for public comment? Dodge.
Kim Dodge, James Madison District. I learned a long time ago, if you put trash in a computer system, you get trash out. When I watched the VDOT presentation, and I watched it 7 years ago, and I was against it 7 years ago, they do not put in, when you watch the little video, there's no traffic They're showing you how you make a right-hand turn, cross over 2 lanes, and make a U-turn. And then I guess you have to cross over those 2 lanes to then make your right-hand turn if you need a turn again. You're not going to go straight. There's no traffic. There's no cars going between 45 miles an hour to 65 miles an hour. I would like to at least see half of the traffic that's actually on those roads. They have to actually put what is really happening at those intersections. People cannot make a right-hand turn, go over 2 lanes, and then make a U-turn, okay, to make the left turn. I don't understand why these people who I think got paid $50,000, I think that's what I heard, or something like that, can't see what I see. Maybe they can unblind me if they would show me, okay, with all the real traffic that is at those intersections, how I'm going to turn right, cross over 2 lanes, make a U-turn so I can go left. I mean, they need to put real data in there. That those presentations they show you, they have a couple of cars there. That's not what is reality and the truth in there. They need to change that presentation because they're convincing people you can do this, and I'm like, no, you can't. You cannot physically do it. When they change their video, then I might believe it.
Thank you, Ms. Dodge. Anyone else? Anyone else? Going once, going twice. Anything online, Mr. Dines?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Anything else that came in that you might happen to see? Anyone? No. All right, nothing? All righty. Closed public comment. Closed session.
All right. I move that the King George County Board of Supervisors convene to close session pursuant to Code of Virginia 2.23711.1.a for discussion, consideration, or interviews of prospective candidates for employment, assignment, appointment, promotion, performance, demotion, salaries, disciplining, or resignation of specific public officers, appointees, or employees of any public body, and evaluation of performance of departments or schools of public institutions or higher learning where such evaluation will necessarily involve discussion of the performance of specific individuals. I invite the senior assistant to the King George County Board of Supervisors, the interim county attorney as needed because they are deemed necessary and/or their presence will reasonably aid the board in its consideration of one or more of the topics to be discussed pursuant to Virginia Code Section 2.23712F.
Ms. Bender, could you table that motion and read that one?
I'll table it and read again. I'll remake a motion for a closed session in accordance with Code of Virginia 2.23711.1 for the discussion, consideration, or interviews of prospective candidates for employment, assignment, appointment, promotion, performance, demotion, salaries, discipline, or resignation of specific public officers, appointees, or employees of any public body. Do I have to invite anybody to come in?
Yes.
Same
folks.
And I also invite the senior assistant to the King George County Board of Supervisors, interim county attorney as needed because they are deemed necessary and/or their presence will reasonably aid to the board in its consideration of one or more topics to be discussed pursuant to Virginia Code Section 2.23712F.
Second.
Mr. Chair, do we want to also include the new county administrator?
He doesn't start to June.
Yeah, I would not at this time.
Second.
Properly second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Yes, we are now in closed session. Ma'am.
I move that the King George County Board of Supervisors return to public meetings certified by vote that only public business matters lawfully exempted from open meeting requirements by Virginia law and only such public business matters as were identified in the motion convening the closed meeting were heard, discussed, or considered during the closed meeting.
And no action was taken.
And no action was taken.
Second.
Second? Okay. Certified, Mr.
I certified.
Stroud?
So certified.
You seconded and certified, right?
So certified.
So certified.
Certified. We are now in open session. Anybody want to leave?
I make a motion that we adjourn the Board of Supervisors until Tuesday, April 24th at 5:30 PM in the Robert H. Combs Boardroom.
Wednesday.
My bad, Wednesday. Thank you.
Is there a second?
Second.
Properly second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Votes aye. We're now adjourned. Thank you so much, y'all. What is?